And so this next story is also kind of involving big tech media people. And so YouTube has officially permanently banned Fox News host Dan Bongino for evading COVID misinformation suspension. And so he had been suspended for 2 weeks for promoting what they call COVID misinformation. And as a result, he is now banned once those 2 weeks are up. And it's pretty interesting because anyone who knows Bongino and has been following the news stories, Bongino is actually fighting cancer right now. And so his doctor had suggested that he get vaccinated, and he followed his doctor's advice, got vaccinated, and he actually has an issue with what we were talking about earlier, which is this COVID mandate. So he's against the mandates, but he is for whatever people want to do with their bodies and their medical decisions. And so I find it pretty interesting that, of course, it's the person with the nuanced view that they want to get rid of as quickly as possible.
Yeah, my guess is they haven't even listened to his podcast. They just like, well, this is an opportunity we have to get rid of a conservative voice out there. We'll just nuke him.
Yeah. And so he had been very vocal about how he was going to leave Twitter and he was going to leave YouTube, and he's joining Rumble. And he has around 900,000 YouTube subscribers and over 1,100 uploads since he started in 2013. And so kind of like what we experienced, that's a lot of manpower and time spent on YouTube, and it's just gone in a second. But Bongino's had a very interesting life and career. He was in the NYPD. He was in the Secret Service. He tried to run for Congress 3 times as a Republican. Was very close one time. And, now he has his own show on Fox Nation, and he also is a radio affiliate as well. So
is his radio show also podcasted every day?
Yes. Yeah. So I've listened to him a few times. He has a big personality.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah. And so it's kind of interesting to see how the left views him. So this article by Mary Harris, the new Rush Limbaugh is even more inflammatory. And it's all about Bongino, how his show took over Rush Limbaugh's time slot on many terrestrial radio stations, and how millions of people are listening to him. And so one of the things they talked about was he kind of played chicken with the radio network, saying, and this is a quote from Bongino, "Look, I can't stand for these vaccine mandates." And so he went on hiatus after that. And when he came back, he said, we have to have our own technology, our own platforms, because otherwise we're always going to be subject to these kinds of pressures and authorities. And so he came back, but he also put forth $250,000 of his own money to compensate people who had lost their jobs because of the network. So, I mean, he's a stand-up guy.
Putting his money where his mouth is.
Exactly. And he's being a big advocate for switching over to Rumble. And so...
You ever seen him get into his spats with Rialdo Rivera?
Yes, I saw the most recent one where he grilled Geraldo about not being...
excuse me.
You're good. But yeah, he grilled...
Rivera just starts crying about stuff, and he just eats his lunch.
Yeah.
Is he mentally fit to be president?
I think that he is mentally fit unless you can prove to me with psychiatrists, psychologists, and experts that
take a cognitive
really
test like Donald Trump did. Donald Trump aced it. Dan.
I wouldn't mind that, but it's kind of insulting to ask a president of the United States to do that. Particularly,
they didn't have a problem asking Donald Trump, John McCain, or Ronald Reagan. Dan.
Yeah.
No, I could not disagree with Geraldo in any stronger possible terms that the guy is 100% not cognitively competent to be president. You know where you can see it, Sean? Here's where I see it most. And Geraldo, I don't know why you're covering for this guy. I mean, it's transparent. You're not a dumb guy. You're a lawyer. I mean, this guy was in the courtroom. You'd be like, Your Honor, maybe so we don't get a mistrial here, maybe we should get new counsel on the other side. I mean, he's clearly not cognitively competent. But Sean, notice on the retrieval thing, the brain processes and then there's a retrieval process. He may not have such a problem storing information and processing it, but you notice he has this retrieval process problem where he'll lose himself in the middle of a sentence and he has a general idea of what he's talking about, but he can't pull the specifics out. Here's a perfect example. How his defense secretary, he can never seem to remember his name. I mean, this is arguably his most important cabinet official. And he's always like, this guy next to me. And then he had Mitch Landrieu, his czar, his infrastructure czar next to him the other day to the right. And he's like, and this dude, whatever, next to me. He can never remember it. Listen, he processed it. He knows who the guy is, but he can't retrieve it. Is it Alzheimer's? I don't think so. Is it some form of early onset frontal lobe dementia? I mean, it's possible, but it's clear as day to anyone looking at this. I mean, come on, Geraldo. He's definitely not.
If that's your evidence, Dan, I call everybody, hey, man, how you doing, man? That's what I do, because
Geraldo,
I can't remember.
Come on, guy.
I mean, the older you get, the more people you've met.
One thing, wait, time out. Let me just throw this at you. Go look back to the Paul Ryan, Joe Biden debate from years ago and look at Joe Biden. Come on, man. Look at him today. That's not the same guy, man. That's not the same guy. I watched that. Believe me, I couldn't believe it. I thought Paul Ryan was going to eat his lunch. And I'm like, even though he lied his way through the debate, I was like, okay, for a liar, he's not too bad at this. This isn't the same guy. Come on, it's not.
It's easier to trip someone up when they get older. And it is absolutely true. But I think that to say that he does not have a grasp of world issues, he's making mistakes. But the mistakes are policy mistakes that whether you're 40, 50, 60, 70, or 80, you can make. I mean, doubt his judgment and his political ideology.
He slips into another world lost for 15 seconds at a time. He can't stay focused on the issue.
Sean, not knowing your defense secretary's name? I mean, really? This is the guy who's going to be, in the process for an armed attack. You don't know his name? You're like, hey, that guy.
Listen to this, Fred. Oh, excuse me.
Tomorrow night, I'm going to bring you, if you both can come, both back, and we're going to do Biden over the years, and then we'll ask you the same question tomorrow. Okay?
All right.
You in?
Put together the montage.
All right. I'll put a montage together. Geraldo, get used to the words check and mate. They're coming tomorrow.
I mean, Geraldo would refuse to admit that Biden had, lost a step. He couldn't even, Bongino was on his ass. And, Hannity, who I think is a little bit spineless, Hannity loves it because Hannity's like the little lackey of the bully who's just like, yeah, get him. And so you can hear Hannity say like, checkmate, whenever Bongino would make a really good point. But, Geraldo would just refuse to admit at any capacity that Biden had slipped just a little bit. It was something else to see. But Bongino's making all these great points, like look at his debate performance versus Paul Ryan versus what he is today. And Bongino knows his stuff. And, people who follow Bongino know that Bongino was all over the Russiagate, the Spygate, all of that. And that he had his own sources that were giving him very accurate information. So Bongino is a threat to these people.
Yeah, he's not afraid to articulate his ideas in a forceful way either. Rivera, he's kind of a surface thinker, kind of all emotional. When faced with facts, he'd rather just cry about kind of the emotional element as opposed to the substantive element.
Absolutely. But that's all I got for you today. But I hope Dan Bongino, has a new home at Rumble that's massive, and he's able to prove that you don't need these F words on YouTube who just mess with you the whole time. And we've experienced plenty of that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that these other sites we're on, by the way, will grow exponentially, because you really do get tired of just the artificial, whimsical way. If they don't like your political content, they just shut you down.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of comedians that I follow that have gotten strikes for saying things like their treatment for a certain virus was light beer and donuts. And they get a strike for that when it's clearly a joke.
Well, I like comedians who can be politically incorrect. On an episode a few nights ago on Larry David, he's walking out the coffee shop and he bumps into this Klansman and he spills coffee on his robe. And then he goes to clean it. And then they become kind of friends, it's funny is what it is. And, but he's got the balls to make fun of stereotypes and do it with good humor.
Yeah. And that's why he's made so many successful shows and continues to be relevant for decades.
Yeah.
Unlike some people like a Kathy Griffin who fades into obscurity and has to rely on the shock value of props of a decapitated president to even be in the news cycle.
And Leon is, the character he plays is couldn't be more un-PC, but it's funny.
I think Leon has a special drink that's like Mountain Dew and milk, if I remember correctly.
On the show?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but anyway. I like me some Leon.
Yeah, Leon's funny.
Stir it up real good. Put a little tea, a little bit of lemonade together, and a little Arnold Palmer.
Congratulations.
And motherfucker got away with that shit.
Yeah, I don't think he was the first one to do it.
Fucking right. You know how many times I fucking put milk and Mountain Dew together? You know what I mean? I could have had my own fucking drink, Leon Black.
Milk and Mountain Dew? Disgusting.
There's certain taste buds that you motherfuckers like, but you get away with that shit. I don't know how the fuck you get away with it.
So you motherfuckers, you're referring to white people?
Of course I am. You motherfuckers will accept all kind of stupid shit in your mouth.
Oh, is that so?
That's called goals and fucking wheatgrass. Who the fuck drinks fucking grass?